Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho Mash. So stop your grinning and drop your linen. Lots of stuff to cover. No screwing around. First, the sun in 94 angstroms. We see some solar flares coming out of sunspot 2772, is it? As well as another sunspot rising in the southeast. It's no sunspotless disk for us, as we've got probably about 30 sunspots by the end of the day. A little bit of X-ray flaring there. No coronal mass ejections this time, although we may be getting hit by one today. We'll talk about it and a lot more. And we'll screw around and even talk about things like politics. It'll be crazy. Next, we're headed to helioviewer.org. And again, this area down here in the southeast is already a sunspot. I can see umbre. As I did show prep, we'll show you closer up views of that later. Here's sunspot 2772. Or is it 2771? I will not try to name it again. Don't be calling sunspots the wrong name, folks. Anyway, there's 304 angstroms. It remains beta class, as we see two different polarity umbrae. Here's the current magnetic environment on the magnetogram. And I'm going to show you that again in a moment. Just want to make sure that the stream is looking good and the stream is looking healthy. Leave us a comment if you're watching live. And we don't see as much field changing as we saw yesterday. So this one looks like it's calming down a little bit. Again, there is another rising spot in the southeast. We'll show you toward the end of the video. And there you can see a little bit of solar flaring there in the 171 angstroms view. This is one of the ionized iron spectra. And that one there didn't really produce any coronal mass ejections. Again, here's a flare right there. You can see a solar flare happen. And that ejecta stayed on the surface of the sun somewhere. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is still 71. I would expect to see this rise soon. There is the sunspot cycle and the radio flux cycle graphs. By the way, if you notice that I'm wearing a U.S. Postal Service hat, it's not because I'm a fan of the U.S. Postal Service. I'm wearing it ironically, yes, because the largest cheating conspiracy in the history of sports was largely funded by the U.S. Postal Service. Ever hear of a guy called Lance Armstrong? Yes. The biggest cheater in the history of sports, at least as far as we know. KP index has been pegged at 1 for the past, 18 hours. And we just saw a solar flare actually happen here as I did show prep. Another small B-class flare. If it came out of the new sunspot or the old one, I'm not sure, but we should be able to figure it out by the end. Although it's not particularly relevant, proton flux stays flatlined for now. We don't see any big coronal mass ejection strikes, although we are expecting a glancing blow from the coronal mass ejection that I believe we reported on before anybody else. Looking at the real-time solar wind, we see a shifty phi angle. Now, if you see the solar wind density suddenly jump up and the solar wind speed suddenly jump up at the same time, that's the signature of a coronal mass ejection strike. We don't expect it to be big. I would expect to see a KP index of 3 or 4, probably not even 5. But keep an eye on that throughout the day, and when I say eye on, the pun is intentional. Anyway, the current solar wind density is around 11 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed has dropped down over the past 18 hours to about 313 kilometers per second. Yesterday we covered cosmic rays. If you want to see the current state of affairs for cosmic rays, check out yesterday's daily space weather videos. We've got hundreds of them. And subscribe to our playlist there on YouTube. It's youtube.com/smAshomash/playlists. Here's 4 hours of density data on the magnetosphere. And that is sort of the magnetic heartbeat of the planet, isn't it? You can see that slightly denser solar wind there, coupled with the low speed. Here is the pressure. The last one was the density. And this is in nanopascals. So nothing too extravagant happening there. We see a fairly steady solar wind. And not a lot of magnetic changes currently happening, at least not in the past 4 hours. Here are the ground magnetic perturbations, and we don't expect to see a whole lot of magnetic perturbations there. It does give you kind of an idea where the south geomagnetic pole is, someplace over here off the coast of Antarctica. And the net north pole is over here, while we have a north pole in northern Canada and Siberia. The northern Canadian one appears to be weakening. Nothing to write home about there. GOES magnetometer is looking a little bit odd here, and we're going back and forth between current sheets. That's probably a crossing there, and we may be in a crossing now as well. Don't be surprised to see some big saw-toothed portions of the GOES magnetometer today, and I'm basing that on the Gong 2 data. So here's the top view ecliptic plane field plot that we use as part of the National Sunspot Observatory. We look at it daily. And this is also an indication that the new sunspot isn't going to be particularly big or strong. It looks like it's already degrading as it moves into the Earth-facing portion of the disk. Anyway, this data is 1 hour and 44 minutes old, and we are expecting to be in the North Pole current sheet once again. So you can see there's been some switching back and forth of the polarity of the Earth portion of the current sheet. And right now, the entire thing in North Pole polarity shown in green. Here's a line of sight field plot, and you can see the B field be pulled down over here on the eastern limb. And then it gets released at the end, an indication that the sunspot is probably not particularly strong. There's the last image, and you can kind of see the sunspot here on their magnetometer data. And this Gong 2 data is derived from 50 ground-based magnetometers, as well as one out on stereo A, one or two on stereo A and stereo B, which are located out there in terms of orbit. They're at Lagrange point 4 and 5, stereo A and B. And welcome to another episode of the Smash Lights, where I talk about anything, no matter how horrifying, spooky, and scary and it is. And today I'm not even going to play Bach Toccata and Fugue in D minor. There's too much stuff to cover. Let's talk about the catastrophe cycle. Well, here's more information about it, that it may have been caused by an exploding star. Now, part of the premise of this is that the sun can't explode and produce a massive nova and produce catastrophic events on Earth, which is categorically not true. The real question is what causes the sun to do that? And if a supernova goes off within 65 light years, is what Fields is indicating, then that could indeed affect the Earth directly. And what the sun would do in that situation is anybody's guess. Would all the plasma leave the surface? Would it get a plethora of plasma on the surface? We just don't know. But it's another interesting article here about earthly catastrophe cycle, about the Denisovan, the boundary between the Denovian and Carboniferous periods. I'm sorry, not Denisovians. The Denovian and Carboniferous boundary catastrophe may have been caused by a supernova. And again, part of the premise of this is that the sun can't do that. It's largely not understood in cosmology and astronomy that all stars are variable. Stars such as Cygnus X3, and we won't talk about it in great detail today. However, we will direct you to smashomash.com/forum, where there's an entire topic about it in the cosmology forum. Go have a read. Let's talk about forecasting the future. As part of our mission is to assist mankind by advancing the study of predictive phenomena in order to optimize value and reduce risk and liability and save lives and resources and adapt no matter what the adversity is, whether it's an oppressive government or a ridiculous ideas by businesses and giant corporations, how to pad their pockets and to monetize a pandemic. Let's talk about forecasting the future. At smAshomash.com/forum, Atmanhotep has created a date stamp prediction center, and thanks for doing it. And he's forecasted a new way to prove you're right before anybody else. Apparently it's come true, which he brought into existence through the quantum universe of creating a forum topic. Now you've got to log in to do so, but it is free for anybody to view. This is part of the free-for-all forum. Prediction 1, Biden will be removed from running in August and replaced by a, quote, consensus candidate, most likely Hillary Clinton. Now he's changed that, but I've got some forecasts too, and Atmanhotep's new forecast is the convention is taking place as scheduled, but he still thinks Biden will be replaced before the election takes place. And rather than HRC, Hillary Rodham Clinton, Michelle Obama is looking fairly presidential these days, the ultimate identity politics powerhouse. 2 women of color checking 4 boxes total. 2 women, both of color. What color is Kamala? Well, nobody knows. Is she Asian? Is she black? Is she Jamaican? Who knows? Did her great-grandfather own slaves? Well, people know. Did my great-grandfather own slaves? No, he's from Scotland. Anyway, we like to advance the study of predictive phenomenon. It's part of the reason why we have a channel. Let's talk about the wind at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, which has been the topic of plenty of debate since the discovery a decade ago of the so-called Fermi bubbles, 2 giant orbs filled with hot gas and cosmic rays. Well, it turns out that there are jets of gas blasting out into the Fermi bubbles, which, by the way, these are the X-ray portion of the Milky Way galaxy. So if you look at these kind of purple and blue colored bubbles here emanating from the core of the galaxy, those are called Fermi bubbles. And it's not known whether these bubbles are created by the galactic core, by a series of stars orbiting the galactic core, or by a combination of both. Now, I'd say it's a combination of both, and what's happening here is there are a lot of stellar poloidal fields where you have a star and they have these poloidal fields coming out of the poles of the stars, and those are typically associated with a proton beam, I imagine, like the sun. So there's enduring coronal holes at both poles of the sun, and the influence of these 2 fields together creates what you'd call the B field, the interplanetary magnetic field. And I'm not creating an all-seeing eye here to freak you out and make you think that I'm Illuminati. But in any case, there are beams of gas, dense beams of protons being blasted out into these areas. And that's not surprising to me in any stretch of the imagination. But here's an article about it. Mystery gas discovered near center of Milky Way. Now this is just looking like a fractal of the sun. However, one thing to understand about the Milky Way galaxy is that you're nowhere near the galactic current sheet, and you're nowhere near the poloidal fields of anything going on at the core. The way these things interact is very different than what's going on in your solar system. The solar system is not simply a fractal of the galaxy. The galaxy is a lot more complex than that. So to suggest that what the sun's doing around the Milky Way galaxy's core is the same as what the Earth's doing around the sun is just cuckoo talk, and it demonstrates you not understanding what you're talking about when it comes to cosmology. So again, we've got these Fermi bubbles here, and within the bubbles we see hot gas being ejected someplace from around the core. And again, there are thousands and thousands of giant hot blue stars like Deneb orbiting the core of the Milky Way galaxy at relativistic speeds that are similar on the same scale as the speed of a solar wind. So it's like a bunch of comets that are the size of stars. They're also the heat and output of stars. Let's move into some other interesting topics. Let's get political. I want to get political. Let's get into political. Let's talk about Obama's coattails and COVID-idiots. Let's talk about Obama's coattails. By the way, Obama doesn't have any coattails. That's the point. Ask Hillary. She's riding his coattails right now, right into obscurity. Now, here's a HuffPo article. I love this one. Former DHS chief claims Trump wanted to swap Puerto Rico for Greenland. Now, I want Trump to buy Greenland because if Trump buys Greenland, he's going to build the most amazing and the most beautiful and the most incredible resort, golf course, and Arctic environment you've ever seen in your life. Okay. There's going to be a new water company that's going to be built there. It's going to be it's called Trump Water. He's going to melt the glaciers, but the glacier melt isn't going to go into the water and shut down the North Atlantic Oscillation. No, that's not going to happen at all. He's just going to just pipe all that water into trucks, then he's going to send it back to the U.S. It's going to be the tastiest and most perfectly mineral-filled snow, purest water you've ever had in your life. Okay? Anyway, according to former DHS chief Miles Taylor, Puerto Rico was dirty and the people were poor. He wanted to change it out for Greenland, I guess, where it's clean and people are rich. Now, Greenland is actually a possession of Denmark. Let's play a clip from the HuffPo. Let's don't play a clip from the HuffPo article, and let's just move on, as I think it's hilarious. And I hope Trump wanted to swap Puerto Rico for Greenland, although Peter Schiff does live in Puerto Rico now, so we can't really have that, because Peter Schiff is too important of a national treasure to allow to fall in the hands of pirates from the Caribbean. Let's talk about Billie Eilish. Now, I was an idiot when I was 18 years old, a complete COVID-idiot, and I was a leftist, basically. I mean, I was against the Republican Party for like a decade by then because of censorship. Here's Billie Eilish talking about how you better vote like your life depends on it, people.
You don't need me to tell you things are a mess.
Oh my God, we don't need Billie to tell you that things are a mess. Anyway, what she's saying is, and she spoke at the DNC before her performance of her new song, My Future. Donald Trump is destroying our country and everything we care about. Oh my God. Please leave a comment if you prefer the voting age to be 30. Let's talk about John Whitehead's commentary. Will our freedoms survive another election? What's going to happen? Is there going to be massive fraud? What's going to happen, folks? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Is it going to take days, weeks, or months for the results to actually show up? Let's read a quote about totalitarianism by Hannah Arendt. Never has our future been more unpredictable. Never have we depended so much on political forces that cannot be trusted to follow the rules of common sense and self-interest. Forces that look like sheer insanity, if judged by the standards of other centuries. Yes, have you noticed your local government doing ridiculous things, being utterly incompetent, and trying to fine you for stuff that makes no sense? Well, I have. And I'm about to face off against 3 different branches of government. What are you doing? By the way, it's your job to make America not suck again. John Whitehead seems to be helping. Read his article from the Rutherford Institute entitled The Great Election Fraud. Will our freedoms survive another election? Now, he's been Mansa-ing. And let's talk about another way to Mansa. It's to understand the YouTube up next effect. Now, we don't really see anything about this, as it's a brand new thing, thanks to Robert Epstein of abert.org. That's AIBRT.org. And if you type in mygoogleresearch.com, it'll direct you to his site, where he's citing the fact that Google and Facebook, and probably Twitter also, to a lesser extent, are intentionally interfering in the U.S. election. If you'd like to buy some non-propaganda material, like our Mansa shirt. Now, this has no political affiliation, as we would prefer America to not suck again, and it is up to you to hold public officials responsible for their failures. The government works for you, not vice versa. Speaking of the government working for you, Jill Biden works for Joe Biden, and she appeared last night on MSLSD. Was it MSLSD? Oh, on the Today Show. Here's a clip.
And joining us now, fresh off that, the issue of rape.
Anyway, they're talking about they're talking about an issue of race. I'm not going to play anymore. I don't want to get a copyright strike. But in any case, Jill Biden campaigning for Joe despite him being able to barely complete a sentence. Similar to Obama off of teleprompter. By the way, thanks to our patrons. Thanks to our latest patron who's joined the condensed matter level. Cheers. And there is a credit crawl coming. Our patrons are a real source of funding. Please consider becoming a Patreon. As YouTube pays us practically nothing. It takes us about, I don't know. We must be making about 2 cents an hour on these contents through Google AdSense. So if you're seeing ads, they're not really paying us anything. And we don't really see any growth. So cheers to our patrons, the real source of funding, and look for a lot more opportunities to support the channel in various ways. Now, some of the music that you heard earlier is available at soundclick.com/smashomash. Not soundclick.com/smashomash. Soundclick.com/goldencatproductions. And there are 15 tracks on there. Do we have any that are charted? Gem Cutters made it all the way to 40. And one of the songs we played today was You, Me, Us, a track from 2009, I believe it was. We're also on Subscribestar. Visit the other links below the video to support the channel in whatever way you see fit. Now, one of the organizations that supports the channel is Twitch. We love the platform. It's just fantastic. And that's why we stream live daily to Twitch. And we're also on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please take a moment to press like and subscribe. We'll wait. You take your good old time. Seriously, the video's not continuing until you press like and subscribe. All right, anytime you're ready now. We're also on BitChute. It's bitchute.com/smashomash. Thanks to everybody who left comments over there. Let's cover it live. This one from yesterday's Smash Lights video. The comment is, from a believer in our Lord Jesus, I'd like to have you for a neighbor, somebody who actually has common sense. My money's on this crayon virus magically disappearing come November 4th. Many blessings to all. And I'll say, thanks for leaving a comment. Cheers. Let's talk Kamala. Kamala. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to mispronounce the name. Kamala. A terrible choice for vice president. Just horrifying. She is not money. Kamala is a liability. By the way, we've got a topic on forums about getting political. It's called Biden-Harris 2020. It's in the Free-for-All forum. Let's talk about a USA Today article. It's amazing. I mean, I can't even believe it that USA Today is actually covering an article criticizing the Obama role in immigration. Who would have guessed? Well, I guess people who've been studying immigration have guessed, since Obama deported over 3 million. Obama said, after all, unless your country is Native American, all our families come from someplace else. He tries to be folksy and not sound like a complete elitist worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Obama did a lot of things right, but not immigration. He didn't get that right. She wrote, I promise you, tonight there is a Estella whose mom was deported by Obama. It's true, it's true. Obama's administration was often criticized for the deportation of 3 million people. So not only does the criminal justice reform lobby dislike Kamala, the immigration reform movement dislikes Joe Biden. So cheers. Let's talk about, oh my God, what is going on? Get that out of here. Jeez, oh cripes. Did you hear about the Middle East peace deals? Now, back in the 90s, I used to say peace in the Mideast all the time. Yo, peace in the Mideast, Joe. I'm friends with a Syrian family. I'm practically an honorary Syrian. I consider them part of my family and vice versa. Shout out to the Afif crew. And yeah, Saudi Arabia has now talked about possibly embracing a peace deal with Israel. So we've got the UAE, Jordan, Morocco, all kinds of countries are looking at the possibility of normalizing diplomatic relations with Israel. Now, anybody who thinks that's a bad thing, I hear they're doing wonderful things at mental institutions nowadays, to quote Jerry Seinfeld. So yeah, peace in the Mideast is a good thing. This Zero Hedge article is entitled, Saudi Arabia Breaks Silence, Tentatively Embraces Israel-UAE Peace Deal. And let's talk about COVID, because I am very scared and spooked right now. And sadly, I'm like SOL right now, okay? Because check it out. Here's my UV bacteria virus killing wand. I must have left it running because the battery's dead, which means I'm screwed. And by the way, if you want to purchase one of these UV wands, you can go find it very easily by going to smashomash.com/affiliate. So I guess I got to come up with something else. All right, I'm going to fire a laser beam at it. Let's see if this takes it out. Hey, COVID. Hey, you're out of here. Is it working? COVID. So, all right, thank goodness. I was very, very scared. Pardon my sarcasm. Apparently, Wuhan's not very spooked. Check out this clip. Just let it load. It's completely worth it. And by the way, this was published on August 18th. So you see any social distancing going on there, folks? You see any mask wearing? What's that? No? Boy, that looks scary and spooky, doesn't it? Oh my God, I'm so scared. It's the ground zero. It's ground zero of the coronavirus. Ooh, the COVID-19. Oh my God, look how scared these people are. They're shocked and horrified. I like the way somebody has a Communist News Network sign. Oh, that's just a watermark. Cheers. Anyway, well done, Getty Images. Getting this fantastic looking scene here where there's a bunch of people at a water park standing less than 1 inch apart. Are you scared and spooked? Guess what? China is ahead of you. If you're listening to your governor who's saying you should wear masks and socially distance, you're a COVIDiot. By the way, we have a giant section on forums on smashomash.com/forum about coronavirus. It's over 30 pages long. Here's a tidbit from March 13th. As coronavirus sweeps country, parents worry about vulnerable kids being kept in school. Now, by the way, Trump was right when he said children are nearly immune to coronavirus. Let's talk about California. Now, this isn't a coronavirus section, but did you know that green California has the nation's worst power grid? Yes, they rely on lots of solar and wind, and they have the worst power grid in the country. Now, this also has to do with land management, because the California Department of Environmental Protection, or whatever it's called, just said, hey, you can't cut brush down around those power lines. And of course, well, what a surprise, that the damage to the power grid is caused by the government. Who would have ever guessed that the government is responsible for failures? If you've got a breaking news story, feel free to hit us up at the SmAsho VoIP line. There's the number. It's country code +1, area code 610-936-9799. If you haven't checked out smashomash.org, we've got links to the forum, the store, the other store, the affiliate, social media accounts. There you have all those. So check it out, smashomash.org. We'll link you to places like the Smash store and the SmAsho store. Perhaps you'd like to join the Smash team. Well, buy yourself a Smash team shirt. How about in pastel pink? Thanks to our Smash team. And check out the latest item on the affiliate list. It's the Arctech HB030B. It reminds me of the 3C405 shirt. Now, for all of those of you who watch the live premieres for the Daily Space Weather video and so on in the morning, when I'm typing to you, I'm actually using this. So it's well tested, it's flimsy, it's cheap, it's Bluetooth, and if you use this instead of your junkware on-screen keyboard, you will save so much time and so much frustration than trying to type on these little ridiculous spyware devices known as on-screen keyboards. I hate them. Mechanical keyboards are superior. If you want to buy one, head to smashomash.com/affiliate and buy this one via our link. The battery lasts forever. It's got multiple colors, so when you see all these colors here, you can change the color, and there are more colors than that, actually. It's got purple and aqua and a yellowish green and a green and a red, and it's fantastic. We're also on Twitter, and I've been interacting a little more on Twitter. Check it out. We've got a new shirt here pinned on Twitter. I've survived a global pandemic so far, and let's talk about my favorite GIF animation of the last week. Oh my God! Oh no! Oh my God! I went to a bathroom today, and when I flushed, a plume of various liquids and other objects came flying out into my hands and crotch. So I ran so far from the urinal. So I was scared that people didn't know that a plume of germs gets created when you flush a toilet. Maybe we'll have lids on urinals now, folks. What do you think? Oh, wouldn't that be great? Oh my God, we better have lids on urinals. COVID-19 warning. Flushing public restroom toilets can spew clouds of particles. Like on a regular toilet, if somebody diarrheaed all over the outside of the bowl and then flushed and ran, there'd be a plume of diarrhea particles blasted into the air and aerosolized. Anybody who didn't know about this probably shouldn't enter a public restroom, but it's a thing, and that is my favorite GIF animation. I may have to put this one on the thumbnail. In fact, I think I will, because it looks like a supernova explosion happening in that urinal, and I just love it. And thanks for tuning in to another Smashlights, the section where I vanish, and then I talk about whatever I want. And if you don't like it, well, you don't have to watch. Let's get back to space. The electron flux has returned to quite low levels again, and we've seen it cratered over the past 3 days. There's the graph of that. Forecast model shows a slight increase. No surprises there. Here's a total electron content forecast, a visualization of the electrons in the entire air column all the way from the thermosphere down to you at ground level with a GPS, and you see the errors should be at minimal levels right now. Cheers. If you're on the equator at noon, that is the worst time for a GPS. Next, looking at the ionosphere layer here. This is just one layer of the air column, and it's looking a little more normal than it did yesterday. Here's the latest image coming through at 8:30 UT. Here's where stuff is. Did you enjoy New Moon yesterday? There's where things will be in 1 week. I'm at peak power around New Moon. I tend to get better rest then. Not sure why, but it's not because of the light, I don't think. Moon at 2.4% waxing crescent. If you're up before dawn, you may see Venus in the eastern sky along the ecliptic, or maybe Mars near the apex of the ecliptic. Wherever you're located. Let's look at earthquakes. I know we saw some deep quakes. Looks like nothing over a 6 magnitude here, although we see a significant one in the Aleutian Islands. And here's a very interesting one. It's a 4.8 in California. Check it out. It's at an odd altitude. The depth is negative 0.6 kilometers. That one 600 meters, or 18 feet. This is about the altitude of Bake Oven Knob, by the way. Yeah, so that one's not deep underground at all. Must be magmatic activity. And that's a significant quake at a 4.8 magnitude. Who would have thunk it? And then here's another one in the same location. at a slightly shallower depth. Is there a volcano about to erupt in California? Well, I doubt it. And this is one of the largest of the past 24 here. It's a 5.1 at Sandpoint, Alaska. Shallow in the Aleutian Islands. A deep quake at Fiji registers 4.6 on the Richter scale at a depth of 428 kilometers calculated depth. Small deep quake on the continent, on the mainland of Alaska. Here's a deep quake at Japan. It's a 4.0 magnitude at 322 kilometers depth. Another shallow quake, this one even higher up at Stovepipe Wells. Again, here's another look at that area. And this one's right in the same location as those other earthquakes that we saw, with magnitudes as high as 4.8, folks. Deep quake strikes western South America. Here, it's a 4.4 magnitude that came in at 33 minutes after midnight universal time. And here's the largest of the past 24. It's a 5.4 magnitude. Northern South America there, near Central America at Pizarro, Colombia. Let's look at volcanoes. Here's the list. It includes Nishinoshima, flight level 050, 5,000 feet. Suwanuse-jima exploding also, 5,000 foot plume of ash there. Manam exploding, flight level 070. Cinnabung, still on the list, producing an 11,000 foot plume. Carinci, volcanic ash reported to be a 15,000 foot plume. Revenador has dispersed its volcanic ash, and we see continuous emissions from Sabancaya. Please do not attempt to fly your homemade kit helicopter or airplane over the caldera. If anything, fly your drone and insure it, because it's significantly likely to be killed off. Still showing 29,300 power outages in California and a similar number in Iowa. We hope they get their grids fixed. There's a weather.gov map. You know, check it out yourself. I don't know. I got nothing to say except there's a bunch of heat advisories. And California's power grid is, it's on the side of things. Next, looking at windy.com for the pressure maps. I don't know what's happened to the pressure maps. They look ugly. Windy.com, your pressure maps are looking pallid. Your pressure maps have a pallid appearance. I think your pressure maps may have COVID. By the way, did you know that the most conclusive symptom of COVID-19 is loss of smell and taste? Were you aware of this? This is by far the most important symptom. If you've lost your smell or taste and you see no other symptoms, you probably have COVID-19. Plan your respiratory health activities accordingly. Anyway, there's where we expect pressure to be at noon tomorrow. Here are the jet streams, and we see this extreme meridional jet stream flow. We're going to see some very cold temperatures down here in the Gulf Coast, for instance. And then we're going to see hot temperatures here in Greenland, and people are going to say, oh my God, Greenland is melting. I hope Trump buys it before it melts because he'll be such a sap then. Ha 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 ha. Seriously, I hope Trump buys Greenland. President Trump, please buy Greenland today. I'll reappear and I will buy real estate in Greenland. Here are the Eastern world's jets. A little bit less extreme over in the east. Lightningmaps.org is showing us some active lightning happening in the Texas stovepipe. Hey, Amarillo. There's a little bit of thunder rolling in. Wheeler, Pampa. Dear Texas, I want to move there. Don't worry, I'm not a leftist. Next, looking at water vapor maps here for Europe and Africa. Water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania. Please pause if we're going too fast. Water vapor maps for the Americas. I would note that the Brian Stelter anticyclone is still going on down here, and that the Don Lemon anticyclone is still going on right here. Do you enjoy our naming of anticyclones? Make sure you follow the Don Lemon and Brian Stelter anticyclones. Maybe drop them a line at CNN.com If you know their email address, leave it in the comments. Next, looking at the U.S. water vapor map. And, oh, I'm still there. Okay, great. And the water vapor map showing some storms here over the northern Great Lakes and over the Texas stovepipe. We'll show you a close-up of that. Here's the convergence zone over the Texas stovepipe, maybe. And I went too far south, folks. And I went into a leftist enclave, 'cause Tom Wolfe really, really sucks. Tom Wolfe really sucks. Anyway, let me just refresh this here. I apologize. We are streaming live, so, you know, cut me a break. And let's get a better view of this convergence zone as, again, cold, massive air is being driven to the south by that extreme meridional jet stream flow. And you can see this air is moving due south. That's not normal. And if you're flying a plane across these areas, expect to feel like you're falling out of the sky if you go like from here to here, or expect to feel like you've run into a wall if you're going in this direction, as that dry mass of air is funneling that weather due south. So northern Texas, if you see storms coming from the wrong direction, we tried to warn you. If you would have watched us at twitch.tv/smAsho, you may have seen it. And now it's time to vanish and thank the Smash team for tuning in, leaving comments, sharing on your social media, etc. Thanks to our patrons, especially, again, the real source of funding. We're dropping files today. All of our patrons will receive at least a ringtone, and some will receive about a dozen ringtones. We just made them yesterday. They're custom. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times. We're going to show you a 131 angstroms video, the intensitygram, and the colorized magnetogram. Here's a colorized magnetogram first, looking at sunspot 20, a sunspot. And it is still a beta class, as we see at least 2 North Pole umbrae and 1 South Pole umbra. And looking at the new one that we're expecting to get named, it's looking weak, as I said earlier. And we do see umbrae associated with that. Whether we can see it on the intensitygram or not may be another story. First, this sunspot. And it's looking blurry as we're getting moon SDO interactions here, I think. And can't really see this. I could see umbrae when I did the show prep. Now it's not visible because of this blur effect of the moon moving in front of the aperture. Last but not least, here's the 131 angstroms view. This should show a few solar flares. And it's about that time to get this stuff going. So thanks again for tuning in, folks. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink it. If you do, don't drive. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Visit the links below the video and support the channel, please. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiously absent from your location. And make sure you leave a comment if you're viewing from a different planet, solar system, galaxy, universe, multiverse, timeline, plane of existence. Crystal type of ball. Who's the best viewer of all? It's the viewer who presses like and subscribe, and the one who does not subscribe to any stupid tribe? Oh, well, thanks, Crystal Ball. Let me put you away until next time.